Good evening. Welcome to the Pink Couch. I'm Coach Lele. Tonight's episode, part two. Why did I get married?
If you have a conversation, have a conversation, come to the big couch and talk it out with Coach Lee. With Coach Lee. A simple conversation.
So I hope you remembered the 5 questions from last week's episode. We asked the questions: what are you looking for? Who's doing the looking? What do you bring to the relationship? Are you relatable? And can I see your luggage? So let's dip into part two. So let me do a brief recap about how the two become one. When you get with somebody, like I said, I used to have a show called The Covenant Collision. And so when you are deciding to date somebody exclusively and you're on the road to marriage, when you two come together, it makes an impact. And that impact will begin to move some pieces out of your life that you no longer need, and vice versa for your partner. And so, as I told you last week, when you see those pieces of yourself on the ground, you're thinking you're losing yourself, but you're actually finding yourself. And so with that being said, you really have to trust the person that you're going to marry or that you are married to. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to have disagreements. Doesn't mean you're not going to have arguments. We define what an argument is. Remember, arguments are not abusive language. It's actually bringing information to the table to rectify the situation. And that's what happens when you're in the courtroom. They're arguing the case. So they're not bashing each other. The lawyers are not attacking each other personally. They're bringing facts to the table to come to a conclusion. So, so hopefully y'all been arguing a little bit more wiser since last week. But the question I want to ask that you should ask, number 6, is what was your example of marriage? When you ask this question, what you're asking your partner is, in your household, are you a single parent household? Are you a divorcee household? What was your background? How were you raised? What do you think marriage, what was your example? So if say, for instance, if their example is they argued all the time, then you're going to have an arguer. But it's going to be abusive language. Remember, it's a difference between being abusive in your language and actually having an argument. So if they were fussing all the time, you may be inheriting a fusser. All right. Maybe somebody was brought up in a 2-parent household and the mama was controlling and the daddy just did whatever the mama wanted to do. Well, if you are a man and you're dating a woman who that's been her dynamic, then you're going to inherit somebody that's controlling and not submissive. These are questions that we really need to ask, because I remember, everybody knows I've been married before. And so when I was married before, my concept of marriage was jaded because I grew up in a 2-parent household. My daddy was the head of the household. My mom helped him out, and I never saw them argue. I saw my daddy buy my mother flowers just because. I saw my mom do spontaneous things for my dad. We never was in the dark, never padlocked out of anything. Nothing was ever cut off. If something needed to be fixed, my daddy got on it right away. That was my example. So can you imagine me being married to somebody who wants to fuss all the time and not pay bills on time and frivolous with their money? I was like, whoa, what is this? And so I remember the first time we got into a heated discussion, I said, Mom, why does this man argue with me? I said, I never saw you and Dad argue. She said, oh, we did. We just didn't do it in front of y'all. And so this is why you have to ask these questions. You have to ask these questions because that's going to help you understand who you're dating and who you are attempting to marry. Number 7, what are your expectations? Listen, this is a extremely important question because a lot of people prepare for the wedding day and not the actual marriage. So some people expect gifts, Instagram posts, likes, shares, taking trips, having a lot of sex, and that's it. That's not marriage. That's not it. That's just a ceremony. So when you're asking, what are your expectations? What are your ask? Okay, you want to? We decided we're going to get married. As a husband, what are your expectations of me? As a wife, what are your expectations of me? Then you begin to find out. Now, hopefully, everybody will be honest. But the Bible says every man is a liar. Okay, but hopefully, prayerfully, they'll be honest to tell you what their expectations are. For me, what I expect you to be honest. I expect you to be trustworthy. I expect you to be a communicator, a provider, and a protector. That's my expectation of a husband. That's my expectations. His expectations of me were, to be loyal, to be submissive, cook every now and then, be his friend, and just that was his expectation. We had that conversation. However, in the marriage, other things came about that you didn't think to ask about, and now they are an issue, and that's going to happen. But if you start off with these basic questions, you can answer and kind of gauge what you want to do. Because a lot of times we don't really listen to understand in conversation. We listen to respond or to refute or to rebut. But you need to learn how to listen to understand. I never forget, this is really comical. When I was in my teens, I was just dating this guy, and One Last Cry. I love Brian McKnight, right? So he was singing One Last Cry to me. Now, in my teenage mind, he was serenading me, right? So I'm bragging that he sung this song to me, but I never paid attention to the lyrics. And so a couple weeks later, we broke up, okay? But I did not equate what he was singing to me was actually giving me a message. And sometimes in relationships, we are so caught up in the moment of what we think it is, we are totally missing what the other party is saying. So we have to learn how to listen to understand. So then you got to ask, what are your deal breakers? Everybody has them. Cheating is a deal breaker for me. That's something I'm not tolerating. I'm not. If you can go put your body on somebody else's, that's where you need to remain over there. That's a deal breaker for me. Because at that point, to me, you've broken covenant. And so that's my deal breaker. Cheating is a deal breaker for me. But what are your deal breakers? Some people say unemployment is a deal breaker, which I think is foolish because nobody can control the job market. The job market is what it is. And plus that goes against your vows for better or for worse, for richer or for poor. So if you being unemployed is a deal breaker, then you might want to reassess, do I want to marry this person? If your deal breaker is no more sex, you're going to get old one day, okay? Stuff going to slow down. You're going to gain weight. You may have some health issues. You got to take some medication, things of that nature. If that's a deal breaker, then that's not somebody's fit for marriage. Because as you're married to somebody, and you think the people married 40 and 50 years are not having impotent issues, or their sex drive is not, your sex drive is not going to be the same at 70 as it was at 20. Let's be honest here. It's not going to be the same at 40. So you got to, when you listen to these deal breakers, that's going to let you know what you are dealing with, and you have to pay attention to those things. And so asking the right questions is really going to help you make an intelligent decision. A lot of people make emotional decisions. He gives me butterflies. She makes my blood boil. Those are emotions, and those emotions do not last. Let me tell you something. People who have sex before marriage, it is amazing. But once you get married, it's no longer amazing. Why is that? Because the thrill is gone. What you mean, coach? The flesh always wants what it cannot have. Okay? If the doctor tell you you can have no more fried foods, you're going to be craving church's chicken. And the thing is, you never ate church's chicken, but because your doctor said you can't have it, now your flesh craves it. That's why people who are not monogamous, that is why when they're cheating on their spouse with other people, and then they are finally free, they no longer want you because there's no thrill there. There's nothing forbidden. And a lot of people crave what's forbidden. So this is why you really have to ask yourself, I need to make an intelligent decision when it comes to relationships. It's really important. The next question you should ask your partner is, what are your strengths and weaknesses? This takes brutal honesty, okay? Asking this question will yield a great conversation starter piece. It will get you to open up to your partner. It'll let you see if they really trust you in conversation, because a lot of people trust as it pertains to fidelity, but not with vulnerability. And if you're going to be married, you have to be willing to be vulnerable with your partner, with your spouse. And so when you begin to talk about your strengths and weaknesses, that's a level of trust for that other individual. You're being very, very vulnerable, and you're being honest with yourself. Now, if you're not honest in this particular conversation, then it's not going to be beneficial for the relationship. But having this conversation will let you know where your spouse is, where your partner is, and how you can help them, or if you're going to hurt them. If y'all both have weaknesses in the same area, it's not going to work. Opposites attract. That's the law of attraction. They have to be opposites in order for them to attract. Like charges repel, opposites attract. And so if you're bad with money, if you're both bad with money, y'all gonna be homeless. It is what it is. But if one person is good with money and the other person is not, it makes sense to let the person who's a good steward of the finances to be over the finances. Women, we can be over the finances without emasculating our husbands. We really can't do that. But a lot of women are not mature enough to still let man be the man, even though you're handling the financial part. And women, it's okay if you are a shopper and he's very frugal, let him handle the finances. It just makes sense. If your strength is administration, then bring that to the table. Remember, you both came together. Your strengths pushed out the weakness of your other partner. So you have to have that conversation, and whoever is best at a certain area, let them work that area. You're going to have peace in your home. It's not going to be chaotic. It's not going to be a bunch of drama, because everybody is doing what they're good at, and it benefits the whole entire relationship and the family. And so relationships are hard work, but they can be done. I really hate reality TV because it's not reality. Those houses are rented from the networks. Nobody's house is that clean. I don't care what you say. You got shoes at the door right now. You got a coat laying on the couch right now. You got a junk room in your house right now. That's not reality, okay? So comparing your marriage to reality TV is going to be a detriment to your relationship. What works in one marriage won't work in another. This is why you have to create your own norm. When I do premarital counseling, I tell the couple, you have to create your norm, okay? The norm at your mom and daddy's house is not your norm. That's their norm. You are coming together from two different worlds. You're coming together. You're having conversation. You're being honest with each other. Now you got to create your own norm. So that means that your parents can't come in and control your norm. They are in-laws. They have nothing to do with your marriage at all. One thing I love about my parents, I can be very frustrated with my spouse. Okay. But my dad said, okay, you feel better? Now go fix it. He's not going to go beat him up. He's not going to call him go off. None of that stuff. He going to let me get it off of me and tell me now go fix it. And that's the way it should be, because they know this is a marriage. I have no say-so in this. No, you can't spend the night. Go home. You're not going to stay here for 2 weeks. Go home and figure it out. And so you have to have people in your life that really respect your marriage. A lot of people do not respect marriage. That's why you got work husbands and work wives, and you got side chicks, and you got sugar daddies and all type of stuff, because people don't respect marriage. You can have on a whole ring, people still try to talk to you. That's crazy. But people do not respect it until they're actually in it. And you got to remember, there's a law of sowing and reaping. If you reap it, if you sow it, you're going to have to reap it. And so a lot of people get serious and want to be loyal and monogamous, but you forgot about all those seeds that you planted before you got married. You didn't repent, you didn't apologize, you didn't make those things right. So now they're coming up in your marriage now. And so this is why you have to set healthy boundaries, and you have to be honest about where you are. Also, remember that your marriage is your marriage. Nobody has a say-so in it. You have to do what works for your household. Now, I know that men Love women that can cook, but all women can't cook, unfortunately. Some people are married where the man can cook. It's behind all. Okay, if that works for your house, let it work for your house. But don't expect him to cook, pay the bills, clean up. You gotta work together. You know what I'm saying? You just can't be like, well, I'm a career woman and I got this to do. Okay, do your career, but don't lose your femininity. Don't lose your role in the home and with your relationship. And a lot society has really messed up the dynamic of marriage. Nothing wrong with you being career driven. Nothing wrong with you being a boss chick. Is that what you want to call yourself? But you still have a responsibility as a wife in the home. There are men out there that are traveling, doing different things. You have some people that are itinerant preachers. You got some people who are motivational speakers. You know, whatever your role is, whatever your career is, that's great. But you're still a husband. You still have to provide safety and security for your household. You still got to spend time with your spouse. You have to have some intentional time. You have to protect your time in marriage. What you mean, coach? There should be time that has nothing to do with just you and your spouse. No kids, no phones, no nothing. Just time with you and the spouse. Y'all have to come away from the day-to-day hustle and bustle and come together. Because if you don't, that hustle and bustle will drive a wedge. It'll drive a wedge day by day, week by week, year by year. And all of a sudden, you're far apart when you were once here. And so you really have to protect your personal time. Listen, friends can be an enemy to marriage when they don't respect the boundaries of marriage, especially if they're not married. It's really not good to hang around a bunch of single people when you're married, because single people don't have a married mindset. They just don't. And man, it's just 12 o'clock, man. Come on. Like it's 3 o'clock in the morning. That don't matter. You don't have no business being a married person outside your house on 12 o'clock without your spouse, unless you're doing some travel to come back from out of town or whatever. It's not a good look. It's not a good look. And so a lot of times people don't have married mindsets. Married mindset, you're at home with your family at a decent hour. That door is locked. Why would you be out all hours of the night and leave your family unprotected because you out and about? That's crazy. Because as a child, my parents didn't play that. That door was locked at a certain time. They don't care what you got going on. If you're not in that house by a certain time, then you need to go back to where you were, because we're not going to open up this door. We don't know who followed you home. You're not going to put us at risk because you coming in late. We got to learn how to set healthy boundaries. Some of you do not have any boundaries when it comes to your marriage. You have no boundaries at all. Boundaries are important. You don't call after a certain time at night unless it's a fatal emergency. You don't break plans with your spouse because your best friend is going through something. That will make me mad. Let me talk about Lele for just 2 seconds. If I got plans with Scotty, I don't care what Larry and them got going on. Don't break my plans to go be with them, because you're going to be with them. Because plans in a marriage are precious. That's quality time. Somebody's put in the effort to invest and put that time together for you to do something. And you just don't break plans for stuff like that. But some of you have no boundaries, and your friends do not respect the fact that you're married. They have no problem standing up at your wedding, taking pictures, eating your food, and not even bringing a gift. They feel like if they bought the tux and the dress, that's their gift to you as a wedding couple. But they don't care that your spouse feels neglected. They don't care that you're working so many hours that what free time you have, you got to be with your friends. They don't understand that dynamic because they're single. They don't have anybody to answer to have a conversation with, to be accountable to. And let's change that. Let's not say have somebody to answer to, having somebody to be accountable to. When you're married, you are accountable to one another. That's accountability. And so we really have to watch our verbiage when it comes to marriage. We have to set some healthy boundaries in marriage. And we have to make up our mind if we really want to be married. Those of you that are single and you got the engagement ring and you all excited. Okay, what happens the day after the ceremony is over with? Now there's boxes in the floor. Toothpaste is open. Toilet seat is left up. Toilet seat not wiped off. Dishes in the sink. Dishes in the dishwasher for 2 days. Clothes piling up. You still gonna be in love? That's still gonna be the love of your life, your knight in shining armor, your goddess. Because at the end of the day, that's life, and people don't expect life to happen in marriage. And so when life begins to happen, you have to know how to navigate through that. But this is why these are the questions that we should be asking before we get married. So let's get back to our main question. Why did I get married? Hopefully you have answered that question by now. We've talked about this for 2 weeks now. There are 3 types of people in life that you need to be aware of. And you should be able to identify with one of these 3 categories: builders, maintainers, and expanders. I live in Greensboro, North Carolina, and I remember when I-40 was a 2-lane highway, just one coming, one going. And the person that built that highway, that road, did not think that the population would increase. So what happened was, as time progressed and as the population began to increase, the people maintained the roads. They kept, make sure the potholes taken care of. They kept it paved, they kept it painted. That's all they could do. But as the population grew, the expanders came, and now 40 is an 8-lane highway because they could see the need, and they didn't just build to the current need. They built for room to grow. And so some people are good at building, but they're not necessarily a maintainer. Some people are good at maintaining, but they're not good at expansion. And so with that being said, you can be the builder in the marriage, but your partner may be the one to expand it. And this is where people start growing apart in relationships. They feel like you're trying to do more than me. You're trying to leave me behind. But no, they're trying to expand the marriage. They're trying to do it. You may be the maintainer. I'm going to keep everything afloat. I'm going to keep everything, taken care of, keep everything checked in or whatever. And that's all you're able to do. But you have to identify which one are you in the marriage. And you have to be willing to grow together. A lot of people are good at growing apart, but they fail at growing together. This is why you have to check the temperature in your relationship. Hey, are we good? You don't have to wait until an argument or to a heated discussion, rather, to figure out if you're good or not. Usually when heated discussions come about, it's because the flags have been ignored along the way. So when everything seems absolutely amazing, hey, are we good? Am I doing what you need me to do? Do you feel fulfilled in this marriage? Are we okay? Is there anything that I'm missing? Is something that you feel like you voiced to me that I have not heard? Asking those questions along the way will avoid a lot of blow-ups. And so when you find out which one you are, then you know what you contribute to the relationship. Are you grateful? You have to have gratitude in marriage, because it's always something to complain about. You can always find something to complain about. But I have learned to look at what am I grateful for in my marriage. Sometimes it helps me calm down, helps me not go off, because the thing that I might be mad about may not outweigh the good in my spouse. And it's easy for somebody to fuel your fire. That's why you got to be careful who you talk to when you're upset and when you're angry. A good friend is going to tell you, hey, you need to look at that a different way. You didn't handle that right. You need to apologize for that. They're a good man. They're a good woman. They'll remind you of stuff that you have shared with them along the way. Those are good friends to make you remember the good times of the relationship. There are going to be some bad moments. There are going to be some uncomfortable moments. There are going to be some moments you're going to have a heated discussion. You're going to be going off. You may cuss each other out. You may stop having sex for a couple of weeks because you're mad. That stuff that's normal stuff. But to avoid that, learn to be grateful for what's in your relationship. Remember, that's your friend. You get married for friendship. You should be friends with your spouse. Building a friendship is a great foundation for a marriage. Because if you are friends, then when you're mad, you can still be a friend. Because friends get mad. Real friends get mad all the time, but they don't stop being friends. And so your spouse should be your best friend. A lot of us have best friends outside our marriage. So that means that there's somebody outside our covenant that knows more about me than my spouse. And that is completely wrong. All right. Security. Your marriage should be a secure thing. If you're dealing with somebody, there is this saying that people said in church when it came to singles ministry, that you got to be whole before you get married. That's not true. And I'm going to tell you why. Because life shapes people a certain way. And if love heals, if your wife is a broken person, okay, when a rib is broken, it's not removed to heal. They don't put a cast on it. It actually heals inside the body. So if somebody in your relationship is broken and y'all have become one, then you have what the other party needs to heal. And so we have to learn how to secure our mate, knowing that, hey, I don't care what you go through. I don't care what mistakes you make. I'm here for the long haul. I got you. I may be mad. I may say I'm going to leave, but I'll be back. People always say that. Well, I ain't got to put up with this. But you're angry. That's why you don't make a decision when you're emotional. But you have to secure your marriage. There's security in marriage. I can leave church and I should be able to go home, and that should be my safe space. I can escape from the entire world in my marriage. That's the way it's supposed to be. Companionship is a component for marriage. That's your companion. You complement each other. That's the purpose of opposites attracting. You have something that I don't have, but that's what I need. So you bring that to the relationship. Companionship is essential in marriage. And the number one thing in marriage is love. And I'm not talking about butterflies. I'm not talking about you can give me multiple orgasms. I'm not talking about that type of stuff. I'm talking about I've made a decision to be with this person for the rest of my life, no matter what. It's my choice to be here. I'm not forced to be here. You didn't have to pay me to be here. I'm here because I want to be here. There's a difference in a got to and a want to. Love is not an emotion. It is a decision. Write that down. Love is not an emotion. It is a decision. Now, this is going to be a little sensitive subject matter here, but I'm going to give you an example. If someone is in an abusive relationship, they don't feel love, but they stay. You've been cheated on multiple times, and you keep forgiving and keep forgiving. That's not based on how you feel. That's based on what you have decided. Love is a decision. It is a powerful tool. Some of you you got friends that are just raggedy, but you love them. So you continue to be their friend, even though they've shown they're not a friend to you. I'm telling y'all, love is not an emotion. It's a decision. And so you have to love that person. Love means good, bad, indifferent, perfect, imperfect, great, not so great, rich, poor, sick, well. I'm here. So ask yourself a question. Why did I get married? If you were questioning, this, I hope it gave you a different perspective. I really hate divorce. I hate when people don't get to stay together, especially when they're meant to be together. But at the end of the day, it's your decision. Nobody can make anybody stay. Nobody can make anybody go. But those of you that are single, I hope you understand that marriage is more than a wedding dress, cake, caterers, and photographers. That's just the ceremony. That's all that is. That has nothing to do with the marriage at all. Your courtship, whatever you're doing during the courtship, you will do during the marriage. Okay? My leader gave me this 120-day rule. He said, in 120 days, you're going to find out who you're really dealing with. Because after 120 days, this is what you're going to know. They can't pretend longer than that. They can't fake longer than that. So 120-day rule. 120 days will show you everything you need to know. And so at the end of the day, sometimes you can grow apart because you're not growing together. So come together, have that conversation. Where did we get off course? How did we get here? And be willing to apologize. Being right is not always important. When you love somebody, you will take the hit for the peace of the relationship. Being right is not always important. If you always got to be right, you're not ready to be married. You are not. I'm telling you that right now. If you're going to have to be right all the time, stay single. Because when you are in a relationship with somebody, there's something called compromise. And when you compromise, what you're saying is, this is not, me being right is not more important than us being together and making it right. You know, learn to do stuff a different way. Don't be so controlling. Learn how to work with your partner. It doesn't have to be your way all the time. Your way may not be working. So if your way is not working, then allow your spouse to have a voice in your marriage. There should be two voices in the marriage. You and your spouse, you both have a voice. Okay? That means you're communicating. You consider each other's opinions. Now, ultimately, husbands are going to make the decision. But husbands, don't be so dogmatic that you don't hear your spouse. They have a different vantage point. So remember, you're here, we're here. So there's two different vantage points that can be seen from different perspectives. So we can't see what you see and you can't see what we see. But if we have a conversation and come together, we can make a decision together that's going to be best for the relationship. At the end of the day, marriage is hard work. It is not a fairy tale. It's a reality. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. You're going to be mad. You're going to be happy. But at the end of the day, that love is going to keep you together. And it doesn't mean it's perfect, but it means it's two imperfect people who are perfect for one another. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode tonight. I hope I'll give you some perspective on how to think about marriage. And if you're in trouble, I hope this will help you. I do some counseling, so if you're interested in that, you can always hit me up and let me know. You can email me at yourcoach@yalad.org if you want counseling, anything like that. But listen, I want you to be encouraged today. Tonight, I want you to understand that I am for marriage. I am pro-marriage. That's God's order, and I stand by that. And I believe anything can be worked out if the two parties are willing to do that. And if you are single, I hope that you listen to this conversation, and now you'll go on dates in a different mindset. You'll stop planning your wedding on the first date. You will just enjoy the company, collect data while you're dating, and make an intelligent decision. Because it is for life. So thank you for joining me on the Pink Couch. I love you guys so much. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you share. And I'll see you next week.
If you be clever.